Alright, so I am Luren Fulner-Erickson, the community organizer for the St. Anthony Park Community Council, so District 12, St. Anthony Park in the northwest corner of St. Paul. What I and I think the neighborhood believe makes the street walkable is actually a lot of the things included in the walkability study. Obviously, having just sidewalks and the infrastructure, really just basic, good sidewalks that are maintained. And I think beyond that, it's sort of creating a walkable and community-friendly space around the sidewalk itself. So that can be anything from sort of plantings and the natural world being something that's valued, so having trees, having flowers, having grass that's kept up, to having good neighbors to that sidewalk, so whether that's the houses and the residents, or businesses that are pedestrian friendly. I think all of the people who surround the actual space that people are walking through really can affect whether or not it's a walkable space to be in. And so residents and business owners can take responsibility for those spaces even though they're the public domain. St. Anthony Park definitely values walking and biking and transits, and has through pretty much the whole light rail construction process. We have an interesting sort of, not quite disconnect, but issue in our neighborhood between, we have the north part of the neighborhood that's sort of the stretch centered on Como Avenue that has their own little business district and connection to a couple bus lines, but isn't as directly connected to the light rail corridor. And then the south part of the neighborhood where the new light rail construction is happening and a lot of the major developments going on. And historically, those two sides of the neighborhood aren't necessarily very connected all of the time. And so having walkable, bikeable, transit-friendly spaces, in addition to driving, of course, is really important, not only to connect our neighborhood to the rest of St. Paul, but to connect the two sides of the neighborhood to each other, so the different residents can use the businesses on both sides and feel like they can get between the spaces and the parks in both places, and the schools, and just all the different parts of our community in a safe and pleasant way. On the walks I went on, we focused a little bit more on the Raymond Station rather than Westgate, since Westgate's kind of half Minneapolis, half St. Paul. So for the Raymond Station in particular, because it's really on the boundary of obviously the business district along University, and close to the residential district where I'm sitting right now, but also is on the edge of a pretty large industrial area, which I think just as that area has been built up, it isn't particularly walk friendly. It's a lot of warehouse space and a lot of trucking, and there's a number of streets that don't have any sidewalks at all. So that is something that's kind of a unique challenge for this area, I think. Definitely not existent other places, but since we have the big contiguous industrial area really close to a number of charter schools and residences, trying to just interface between those different uses is really important. So definitely figuring out ways to put in sidewalks just to begin with, and some of the newer, especially housing developments, have done that. But there's certain places where there's a new apartment building on one side that has put in trees and sidewalk, and that's great. And then literally on the other side of the street is a space that you wouldn't necessarily know you even could walk because the street pretty much goes up to the building. So figuring out how to, just as development continues, make sure sidewalks are put in everywhere, and that there's trees and appropriate lighting, because that's another issue in some areas, is that there really isn't pedestrian scale lighting because pedestrians haven't really used the space, whereas they will definitely coming up as the station is open and the light rail runs.